What's up, dear YouTube viewers? The World Cup in USA, Mexico, and Canada is starting really soon. For the first time ever, it will feature 48 teams. All of them want to win the World Cup. Some of them absolutely think it's possible and will be upset if they don't win. Others don't think it's realistically possible but still dream about it. So today I decided to go through all the 48 teams and say which team has the best chances of winning in my opinion, and if they win I would not be surprised at all, and which team absolutely in which team I absolutely don't believe in, and if they win I would be absolutely surprised. I'm gonna start from the team that I think has the least chances to the team that has the most chances. Okay, so at 48th place I got Iraq national football team. Now, I'm not saying that Iraq is worse than like some of the other teams that qualify, but the problem is that they are basically in a group of death that has one of the favorites to win the whole tournament, France, Norway, who has a champion of England with Arsenal Odegaard in their squad, and Erling Haaland, one of the best football players in the world. Senegal, who are champions of AFCON. Yes, I know, technically Morocco won the tournament in cabinets, but we all know that on the field Senegal won. All those teams look to be better than Iraq. So I don't think that Iraq realistically has a chance to get out of this group. But where Iraq could deliver a massive surprise is if they score more goals against one team than another, because this is basically a group of death, and it's highly likely that the difference will be calculated based on goals scored. And if Iraq manages to score more goals against one team than another, then they could deliver a surprise to some of those teams. At 47th place, I have the Jordanian national football team. Jordan national football team has recently been on the rise. They got to the Asian Cup final and beat South Korea on their way. But I still don't believe in them, at least at this World Cup, because every one of the opponents they have looks better than them, at least on paper. Argentina is the incumbent World Cup champions with a lot of world-class players. Austria also has some players who play in top clubs in Europe, and under Rangnick their form seemed to improve a lot. And Algeria also found the right coach, Vladimir Petkovic, with a lot of experience. And they have players such as Ryan Al-Nouri from Manchester City and Ibrahim Maza from Bayer Leverkusen, who showed some good statistics in the recent season. Therefore, I don't think that Jordan could make it out of the group. I do believe that if they continue at the rate they are at now, they could potentially deliver in the future. But I believe this time it's not really their World Cup, because, like, you know, sometimes people have to try for the first time and fail before they could actually succeed. But once again, I do see that if Jordan scores more goals against one opponent than another, they could deliver a surprise in that group. Number 46, I have the Haitian national football team. Many people were surprised when Haiti qualified for the World Cup, regardless of not even being able to play at their home field. And I think what Haiti did is admirable. And also admirable how they have done a lot of naturalization work and naturalized Isidore, who was originally born in France but couldn't play for the French national football team. And now Haiti got him to play. That will be to play for them. That will be a huge help for them. But even with him, I don't think they would make it out of the group because all opponents look better than them on paper. I put Haiti as 46 because they are in a more durable group but still pretty hard. 45th place, I got the Curacao national football team. Now, Curacao has done a lot of work to qualify for the World Cup, naturalizing players from the Netherlands, finding the right coach. So it's good, it's admirable how they have done so much work. And yes, many people can say that they only qualified because Jamaica had their own problems or because the USA, Mexico, and Canada as the top 3 best teams in North America in football qualified automatically, but that still doesn't rule out that Curacao made a remarkable accomplishment. But just like with the other teams I talked about before, I don't see them making it out of the group because all of their opponents have better players. Ecuador has 2 defenders Champions League finals. Ivory Coast has naturalized a lot of players from France, plus they already had a good squad. And Germany is one of the World Cup favorites, according to many. So, unfortunately, just like with all other teams I talked about before, I do see how Curacao could deliver surprises to the other teams here, but I don't believe they will make it out of the group. At 44th place, I have South Africa. I have South Africa higher than some of those other teams because they are in a durable group that does not contain a clear World Cup favorite and somebody who has won the World Cup a year or less before. However, I still think that South Africa is the outsider of the group because in the last AFCON they got eliminated in the round of 16 to Cameroon, and in the World Cup before that they had featured, they have never gotten out of the group. And also all the other teams in this group have more players playing in Europe than them, and they have on European clubs in top 5 leagues when they have only one such player, Lyle Foster. So I think South Africa will get 4th place in the group, but once again they could deliver some surprises to the other team by scoring more goals to some of the teams than another. At 43rd place I have Qatar national football team. Yes, Qatar had been the champions of Asia twice in a row, but I still don't see them making out of this group. Because the last time they were in the World Cup, they didn't make it out of the group stage. Yes, they have improved They have improved since. For example, they have qualified for the World Cup directly and not just as host, and now they actually have a more durable group, which doesn't contain a clear favorite like the Netherlands was in the previous World Cup. However, I still think that Qatar is the outsider in this group because other teams have more star players, more experience, and more convincing victories. For example, Bosnia beat Italy themselves, who even with all their problems right now are still a top team in Europe. Switzerland has made it out of the group stages in all past World Cup, and Canada is a co-host, and they have many star players such as Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David. So yeah, I think Qatar will get first, but like all the other teams, I think they could surprise some of those teams by scoring more goals in some teams than another. At 42nd place, I have the Saudi Arabia national football team. Yes, I believe in Saudi Arabia less than some of the debutants, such as Uzbekistan. And the reason why is because I don't see that the new strategy by Saudi Arabian government to sign players from foreign countries has worked. And I think in fact it has actually had the opposite effect, because before players from Saudi Arabia got playing time in their clubs and came to the national team ready. Now they usually sit on the bench behind foreigners, and when they arrive to the national team they don't show up much contributions because of that. So I believe that Saudi Arabia will not make it out of the group stage. Whether they will get fourth or third place, even if they get third place, I still don't see them being as one of the third place team to advance. At number 41, I have Cape Verde. I have Cape Verde higher than Saudi Arabia because they beat Cameroon, who is one of the giants of African football. And they have more players playing in European clubs. However, I still don't think that Saudi Arabia could, or I still don't think that Cape Verde could advance out of the group stage in this. They could either get fourth place or get third place, but not be one of the third place teams to advance. Because Spain and Uruguay are both challenging opponents who had won the World Cup before. I could be wrong, of course, but right now I don't see Cape Verde advancing out of this group. Number 40, I have the Panamanian national football team. Panama has qualified for the second time for the World Cup, which is a good result, but I still think that all of their opponents in the group stage have better squads than them. England is one of the World Cup favorites. Croatia has made it to the finals in the two past editions, and even now they have a lot of players in European top clubs, and Ghana also has some stars like Antoine Semenyo. So I think that Panama will not make it out of the group stage. Maybe in the future they could, but right now I don't see that happening. At number 39, I have the Paraguay national football team. Yes, Paraguay is in an easy group with USA, Turkey, and Australia. They don't have any team in their group that has won a World Cup before or that has gotten close to reaching the final of the World Cup in recent years. However, I still see Paraguay as an outsider in that group, even though they had a good qualifying campaign, because all of their opponents have something remarkable in their squad and have more World Cup experience and experience in their own continental tournaments. USA is one of the co-hosts and has many players in Europe, such as Pulisic and McKinney. Turkey has world-class players such as Arda Güler and Kenan Yildiz. And Australia has made it to round of 16 in the past, where they were only stopped by the future champions. And even then, they showed some remarkable football. So I think that Paraguay will get first place in that group, because they haven't had World Cup experience in a long time. Yes, I got them higher than some other teams because they have players such as Julian and Ciso who play in Europe, but I still don't see them making out of the group stage. At number 38, I have New Zealand national football team. I think that all of New Zealand's opponents have a higher chance than them because They have World Cup experience and more talented players. New Zealand has only one player who we have heard of recently. It's Chris Wood. And New Zealand hasn't qualified for the World Cup in a long time and probably wouldn't even have qualified now had Oceania not gotten a direct World Cup slot. The only advantage that New Zealand has over their opponents is that they had an easier qualification campaign because they hardly met any resistance from any other Oceania countries, such as they are simply much stronger than all other teams. But other than that, I think New Zealand's opponents have more chances. I think New Zealand could get out of the group in the future, but not right now. At number 37, I have the Iranian national football team. When the group were first drawn, I really thought that Iran had the chances for second place in the group. But then the US and American war started with Iran, and now the chances for Iran shrinked a lot because Iran is going to play a World Cup game in a country that they are de facto at war with. So they're gonna be under pressure from both their own government, who are gonna look to see what they are doing to make sure that they behave as they want, and the US government, who are gonna look to make sure that the players don't have connections to the people in power in Iran right now. When you are under double pressure, it's hard for you to perform. Yes, in theory it could play to Iran's advantage because they could have more motivations to prove themselves, but in reality I think it's more likely that it will make the situation worse. In addition to the fact of the war, and another thing that speaks against Iran is that most of their players playing in Europe top clubs are already considered old by the football standards, and they don't have much young players who show signs of being high valued by European clubs. I think Iran could still get third place in the group and even be one of the third place team to advance, but I don't see that they could advance further than round of 32. At number 36 place, I got Uzbekistan. Yes, I have Uzbekistan higher than some other teams with much more World Cup experience, like Saudi Arabia, or Qatar. But the reason why, mainly number one, is Abdulkadir Husanov, a player who plays in Europe's top club and gets minutes there. He has been a remarkable part of Man City's defense recently. No other team I talked about before has had such experience. And also the reason why is because Uzbekistan has a durable group. Yes, Portugal will be hard to resist, but other teams such as Congo and Colombia are not so hard to resist. I think Uzbekistan has realistic chances of getting third place in the group and potentially advancing to the round of 32. Although right now I don't think they have chances to advance further than the round of 32. Yes, I think it's more likely than the Democratic Republic of Congo will get third place, but anything could happen. Number 35, I have Tunisian national football team. Normally I would have placed Tunisia even higher, because they got a decent squad with some players playing in Europe. And even better is that they convinced Sami Khedira's brother to join the Tunisian national football team after he failed to get a call-up from Germany. That's good, but they are in a challenging group with the Netherlands, who have reached the final of the World Cup 3 times already, Japan, who has many players in Europe top clubs and who many people are considering the dark horse of the whole tournament, and Sweden with their super generation Gyökeres and Isak. I think Tunisia will get first place in the group, although they could get some surprises in the group by scoring more goals against one team than another. At number 34, I have the DR Congo national football team. Honestly, normally I would have the Democratic Republic of before I would have the Democratic Republic of Congo much lower, simply because they don't have much experience in the World Cup and because they haven't showed convincing results in the past. But the Democratic Republic of Congo has done great job with naturalization, naturalizing some players like Axel Tuanzebe, Jonas Visa, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. I think the Democratic Republic of Congo has a realistic chance to get third place in the group, and maybe even go to the round of 16, depending on how easy their opponent in the round of 32 will be. At number 33, I have Ghana national football team. Ghana has some good players like Thomas Partey and Antoine Semenyo, but I have them lower than they could have been because they haven't showed convincing results in the past, failing to qualify in both 2018 and 2022, and also failing to qualify for the AFCON in 2026. What's worse is that Mohamed Kudus will be missing the tournament. Yes, Ghana still has players who they could hope for, such as Ernest Nouma from Lyon and Antoine Semenyo from Manchester City. I think they have a realistic chance to get third place in the group and maybe even be one of the third place teams to advance, but I don't think they could get further in the round of 32. At number 32, I have the Algerian national football team. Algeria hasn't been convincing in the past, haven't qualified for 2 World Cups, but now they seem to have found their manager, Vladimir Petkovic, who has gotten good football to the team, where they score a lot of goals and finally got them to qualify for the World Cup. I think they could beat Jordan and maybe even Austria, depending on how things turn out. I think they could advance to the round of 32, but after that, it really depends on who their opponent will be. At number 31, I have Scotland. Yes, Scotland showed a remarkable campaign in the qualifier, sensationally getting ahead of Denmark, who were considered the favorites by many. I do think they could get third place in the group, but I don't see them beating Brazil or Morocco, because both of them have a better squad. I do see them getting third place and potentially beat one of the third place teams to advance, but after that, I think it depends on who their opponent will be. If they are lucky to get an easy opponent, they might advance even further. At number 30, I have the Australian national football team. Australia is placed in a group that's easy compared to the groups that they were placed in before, with France and Denmark, and they still made it out of that group. So I think they could definitely make it out of the group that they are in now, with the USA, Turkey, and Paraguay. I do see the USA and Turkey getting ahead of them. However, they could still advance as one of the best third place teams. I do think they could show some remarkable results like they did last time and go to round of 32, maybe even round of 16, and on their way show some footballing, show some good football, where they could they could attempt to play good against even a team that's better than them on paper, and even if they lose, they could still do their best to try to advance. At number 29, I have the Canadian national football team. I don't know if Canada will make it out of the group stage, but I do see that they will at least finally get their first win at the World Cup. Probably over Qatar. Maybe if they are lucky enough, they could even get ahead of Bosnia and advance to the World Cup. I do advance to the knockouts of the World Cup. I do believe that now Canada could do better than they did in 2022 because their players have gotten more experience. Jesse Marsh seemed to found the right kind of football for them, and they are one of the co-hosts. And historically, the hosts have gotten more lucky at the World Cup. I do see that they could at least get their first win. Maybe if they're lucky enough, even make it to the round of 32. At number 28, I have the Ecuadorian national football team. Ecuador has got two really good defenders, in Capier and Pacho, both of whom were in the Champions League final, plus Caicedo in the defense and some other players. But I still don't think Ecuador could get farther than third place, because both Germany and Ivory Coast look better than them on paper. I do see them beating Curacao, and after that, maybe potentially getting to the round of 32 as one of the best third place teams, maybe even beating Ivory Coast and getting there directly. But after that, it really depends on who their opponent is, once again. I think that in 4 more years, when their players get more experience, they could be one of the dark horses on the tournament. But right now, I think that both Germany and Ivory Coast have a higher chance at them. At number 27, I have South Korean national football team. I think that South Korea will get third place in the group, behind Mexico and the Czech Republic. Yes, South Korea has a lot of good players, such as a Champions League winner Lee Kwon-in and a Champions League semifinals Kim Min-jae. But the reason why I'm putting them so low is because they lost to Jordan at the Asian Cup. And the teams that they will be playing against will have an even higher players who cost even more than Jordanian players, according to Transfermarkt. So, right now, I don't think that they will make it far. Many people are saying that Hon Moon-bo isn't the right fit for this team. I do see them maybe advancing as one of the best third place team, but I don't think they will get further in the round of 32. At number 26, I have the Czech Republic. The Czech Republic has been a surprise to me because they beat Denmark, who has always been present at the World Cup, and Ireland, who showed really good game in the group stage. I think that in this group they have a realistic chance for second place and maybe even for first, because this group is really not as challenging and every team has some chances to make it out of this group. I think they will definitely get to the round of 32 and could potentially get to the round of 16, depending who their opponent is. At number 25, I have Egypt. Now, I originally wanted to put Egypt much lower because basically their whole game depends on just two players, Salah and Marmoush. And even those players have not had the most convincing seasons at their club. Even worse than that is that their manager Hassan didn't call up one of their best players who helped them in the World Cup qualifying campaign. However, I still have Egypt higher than I originally wanted to put them because they had a very convincing AFCON performance where they were in the top 4, and they have a very durable group. They could easily try to challenge New Zealand and Iran, and even Belgium is not the worst of opponents they could have. I see that they could get out of the group stage, but after that, like with many other teams, it just depends on who their opponents will be. At number 24, I have the Bosnia and Herzegovina national football team. Yes, I have Bosnia relevantly high. And the reason why is because they beat Italy in the qualification. Yes, you can say they got lucky. First, lucky to be drawn in a group with Austria and Romania and no team that has won the World Cup before. Then lucky to be drawn against Italy where Bastoni got a red card, which was absolutely unnecessary. Then lucky that a ball boy stole a cheat sheet from Donnarumma. But luck is absolutely a part of football. Every team can get lucky sometimes and unlucky other times. The question is how you use that luck. I see Bosnia making it far because one, they have a durable group. Two, they have a good squad with a balance of young players and more older players like Eden Dzeko. And it's always best to have a little bit of every kind of player. I think Bosnia has a realistic chance to get second place and get to the round of 32. Maybe even the round of 16 or quarterfinals, depending on who their opponent would be. At 23rd place, I have the Sweden national football team. I wanted to put Sweden much higher because they have a super generation with Gyökeres and Isak, but their qualification campaign was not at all convincing. They lost even to Slovenia and Kosovo and let those teams be ahead of them. However, in the playoff rounds, they finally found their game and beat first my home country of Ukraine, which makes me upset, of course. Then Poland. I see Sweden as getting third place and being one of the best third place teams to advance, and maybe even getting second place. After that, it really depends on who the opponent is, but I think they could make it as far as the quarterfinals, like they did in the 2018 World Cup, the last edition they were featured. At number 22, I have Senegal. Senegal has a very good squad and they were the AFCON champions on the field. Yes, and once again, in the cabinet Morocco won it, but I think the results on the field is what matters more. But the problem is that they were placed in a challenging group with one of the favorites, France, and Norway, who many people say are the dark horse. I think Senegal will be the best third place team to advance, and if they get lucky, they could potentially advance to the round of 16. Last time they got unlucky because they got England in the first playoff round and couldn't beat them. But now the World Cup is expanded to 48 nations, so who knows who will they play against. Maybe they will get an easier opponent this time. At 21st place, I have the Mexican national football team. I think if Mexicans are to ever break the round of 16 curse, then it would be now. Because they are the co-host, they have an absolutely durable group, and they have many good players such as Alvarez, Jimenez, and Raul Jimenez, and even some young wonder kids like Rodrigo. Even some young wonder kids like the 70-year-old star who joined Atletico. So I think that Mexico has a realistic chance for first place in the group, and I absolutely see them as advancing to the round of 16. After that, I don't know if they will advance and finally break the curse, but I think they have a realistic chance. If they try hard enough, they could absolutely do it. At 20th place, I got Colombian national football team. Colombia has many good players such as Luis Diaz, who had the season of life at Bayern, and Luis Suarez from Sporting. And they are also in a very durable group. Portugal will probably be hard, but all the other opponents they could beat. I think they will get second place in the group and will make it to the round of 16, and maybe even further than that, depending on how lucky they get. At number 19, I have the Austrian national football team. Austria has finally found the right manager, Ralf Rangnick, and we can see how results under his leadership have improved. Yes, Austria were in an easy World Cup qualification group, but that still doesn't change the fact that they qualified as a first place side, which is a remarkable achievement. And they have many players playing in Europe's top clubs, such as Zabitzer, Leimer, and others. I think Austria will get second place in the group and maybe get to the round of 16. And maybe even further depending on how the draw turns out. At number 18, I have the United States national football team. They are one of the co-hosts and they are in a very durable group, which doesn't contain any team that has won a World Cup in the past. And they also have many players such as Pulisic and Weston McKennie who play in Europe top clubs. Yes, they haven't had the most convincing seasons, but I still think that sometimes players who hadn't had the most convincing season at club level could show off at the World Cup. So they could show up. So they could show remarkable results. However, I can't have the USA higher than 18th place because they failed the last Copa America, where they didn't even make it out of the group stage. And Pochettino is new to this team, and we don't exactly know how his football will be played out by their players. At 17th place, I have the Turkey national football team. Turkey has many wonderkins like Güler and Yildiz, and they have a durable group. I see Turkey as being the favorites to get out of the group stage, and first place favorites, even though I will be cheering for the United States, of course, because no other team in their group has such world-class players like Güler. However, Turkey cannot underestimate their opponents. All of them have something to offer that could make them achieve good results. Because I think it's bad to underestimate your opponents, like how we saw in 2021, where Turkey thought they could make it out of the group stage with Switzerland and Wales, and they still didn't at the Euro. So I think Turkey could be one of the dark horses of this World Cup, but I think they shouldn't underestimate any of their opponents. At 16th place, I have the Norwegian national football team. Norway has recently changed how they raise their players and has got many good players now, such as Odegaard, Holland, Sørloth. So I do see them advancing out of the group stage. However, I think the maximum this team can reach right now is the quarterfinals, and even that would be a miracle. I wouldn't hype up Norway as many people saying that it can reach the semi-final or the final or something like that. It's a good team, but right now they still need to get more experience in the World Cup. I don't see them going as far as the semi-finals because they have a disbalance of players where they have a lot of players in the attack but not so good players in the defense. So as of right now, I see Norway as 16. At number 15, I got Switzerland national football team. Switzerland has always been a team that has made to the World Cup in recent years, and they have a very durable group. I see them as the favorites of this group, and although they shouldn't underestimate the opponent, if they find the right techniques, they could make it out of the group stage in first place, because they have more experience than any other team in the group. After that, they could get to the round of 16 or maybe even further depending on who their opponent would be. I think they could beat a team that is the same class as them, or maybe even a team that is higher class than them, like they beat France at the 2021 Euro. At number 14, I got the Moroccan national football team. Yes, I have Morocco lower than some other teams. That might seem surprising because they got to the final of the last World Cup and such then have improved a lot with their squad, but two things make me want to put Morocco lower than some other fans. First of all, Morocco had a scandal at the AFCON, where they lost the game on the field, but then they filed an appellate with the African Football Committee, and they awarded them the AFCON, which to me is not the best way to win. Let's say it that way. And I think that this pressure could play against Morocco in a negative way, because players will feel something about it. Potentially, maybe some fans could not support Morocco as actively, and who knows what can happen. So I feel like this will definitely play some kind of negative role against Morocco. The second reason why I have them lower than some other people would put them is because the manager who made the 2022 miracle, Draghi, resigned, and the new manager Mohamed Kabi has been convincing at the youth levels, but at the senior levels, he hasn't shown what he is capable of yet. Maybe he could do it, maybe not. We'll just have to see. But because of this, I placed Morocco only 14th. At number 13, I have the Japanese national football team. I don't see them winning this group, and I see the Netherlands as the favorites because Takumi Minamina has missed the World Cup due to injuries, and he is one of the key players the team possesses. But I still see them making it out of the group and definitely getting very far in the group stage. I think they could or in the knockout stage. I think they could very realistically get all the way to the quarterfinals. At number 12, I have the Ivory Coast national football team. Yes, I believe in Ivory Coast more than in some other teams like Morocco. The reason why is because Ivory Coast is not under as much pressure going into this tournament as teams like Morocco are, and they have a very convincing squad. In every line they have some player who plays in Europe top clubs. In goal they have Lafont, who once was called the hope of French football, and even though now he hasn't been in the best form recently, for Ivory Coast he could still show some remarkable performance because their opponents are not as tough as those that Real Madrid had before. And even the goalkeeper who they prefer to utilize as their main choice have had very convincing displays in the AFCON. In defense, they have gotten Adion Kasulnu, a champion of Germany with Bayer Leverkusen 2024, and Ousmane Diomande, who is being linked to top clubs in Europe. And who knows, maybe after this World Cup he will finally earn his transfer to a top club. In the midfield, they got some other good players, and most of whom play in the top clubs of Europe. And in the attack, they got Yan Diomande, who is being linked as one of the best players in Bundesliga, and is actively being linked to top clubs in Europe. And they naturalized many players such as Antoine Bani or El Yawai, which makes them a good squad. I think the Ivory Coast could get as far as the quarterfinals. I see them as the main dark horse of the whole tournament. At number 11, I have the Croatian national football team. Some people could say I put Croatia so high just for the last two World Cup performances, and it has nothing to do with how they will perform now. But they still have a decent squad. And many good players such as Guardiola from Manchester City, Modric, who has had a good form at Milan, and other players. I see them getting second place in the group stage. I don't see them getting a medal this time, however, I do think they could get to the quarterfinals, and maybe if they're lucky, even win a medal. At 10th place, I have the Uruguay national football team. Yes, Uruguay is in a group with Spain, and Spain are considered the favorites, and right now they got some attacking problems with Suarez being out and Nunez not being in his best form, but I still see Uruguay making it far because they have gotten many world-class players such as Ronald Araujo, who isn't good for Flick's system but is still a good player for another club, or Federico Valverde. Yes, Valverde's behavior on the outside of the field, it raises questions, and many people say it's unethical with how he wanted Xabi Alonso sacked and had a fight with Aurelien Chouameni at the field. But on the field, he still had some remarkable performances, such as in the game against Manchester City. And I think that could easily translate into a good performance against Uruguay. I think into a good performance for Uruguay. I think Uruguay will get second place in the group and potentially even put a good game against Spain for first place. At number 9, I have Brazil. Yes, I have Brazil only 9th because Carlo Ancelotti has made some questionable squad selections, such as not calling Joao Pedro in. And also because they haven't had the most convincing qualifying campaign. However, who knows, maybe Brazil can actually win the whole cup, because last time in 2002 they also haven't had the most convincing campaign, and that was when they won the tournament, when they were not under pressure. So maybe not being under pressure is just what Brazil needs to actually win it. At number 8, I got the Belgium national football team. Some of Belgium's players have gotten old by football standards recently, and they have had some unconvincing results at the last World Cup. But I still think that Belgium could get far in this tournament and maybe potentially even win it, because they got some good players like Daku, who has been good at their clubs, and they got a durable group. Neither of their opponents has even gotten a win before. So they could make it to at least the quarterfinals and maybe even go as far as winning the World Cup, depending on how lucky they get. At 7th place, I have the Argentina national football team. Yes, I have the incumbent world champions as only 7th, because I don't think that Lionel Messi can still bring them the World Cup trophy single-handedly like he did last time, and because I feel like the teams that they faced in the past, such as Spain and Portugal, have gotten stronger since then. And plus, we can't forget about the World Cup champions curse. However, I still think that Argentina could make it to at least the quarters and maybe even further, depending on how they... At number 6, I got the Netherlands national football team. The Netherlands has never won the World Cup before, yet I have them decently high. I feel like they have improved since 2018 when they didn't qualify for the World Cup in Russia. They got very convincing results at the last World Cup, where they only lost to the future champion, and even then put up an admirable game, and at the last Euros, where they made it to the semis. Right now, Netherlands has gotten many world-class players, with every club of the top 6 in the EPL having at least one player from the Netherlands. I see them getting very far. I don't know about winning the World Cup, it really depends on how lucky they get, but I do see them as getting at least to the quarterfinals like they did last time, maybe even further. At number 5, I have the German national football team. Germany has improved at the moment that they didn't make it out of the group stage in the last 2 World Cups, where in the Euro got an, they got into the quarterfinals and only lost to the future champion. Now Germany has many young talents such as Linat Karel, or Florian Wirtz, Jamal Musiala, or Alexander Pavlovich. I see them getting us very far. However, they must not underestimate their opponents, because last times when they did it, they didn't even make it out of the group stage. So I see that Germany could get far in this and maybe potentially even win the World Cup, but they must have the right mood and the right technique to do it. At number 4, I have the England national football team. Thomas Tuchel has made some questionable selections. I could understand why Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, and Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't go to the World Cup, but I just can't understand how players like Morgan Gibbs-White didn't go when he single-handedly dragged Nottingham Forest into the Europa League semi-final. However, even with that, the England squad remains strong. They still have Harry Kane, who had a convincing season at Bayern, and a good midfield with Jude Bellingham, Kobe Mainoo, and Declan Rice. And a lot of times teams that are most likely to win a World Cup are teams with good midfield. So I see them as getting at least to the quarterfinals and maybe even to the semifinals, and potentially even winning the World Cup. But they are under high pressure right now with Tuchel not selecting some players, so that could play against them. At third place, I have the Portugal national football team. Yes, regardless of the fact that the Portugal football team never even reached the World Cup finals, I have them higher than some teams who have. There are a couple of reasons why. First of all, the midfield with João Neves and Vitinha, both of whom had a convincing season at PSG and were part of the reason why they won the Champions League. It kind of reminds me of the Javi Iniesta midfield that won the World Cup for Spain in 2010. I easily see Neves and Vitinha doing the same thing in 2026. And second of all, because Cristiano Ronaldo has finally gotten less selfish and has learned that sometimes it's important to give passes to other players and not just score himself. He has done it for Al Nassr, and maybe now that he has gotten less egoistic, the whole Portugal game won't be built around him, and he could show some, and the team could show some convincing results. Now, don't get me wrong, I still see Ronaldo as doing something remarkable for Portugal, but I think that he can't start in every single game anymore. He needs a break sometimes, and the whole game can be built around him. I think Ronaldo could still score some remarkable goals, and he could still be a mental leader for this team, but he also must assist other players and not just score himself. I easily see the Portugal winning the World Cup, but in order for that to happen, every player must work towards this goal and be okay with not getting started in every game, even Cristiano Ronaldo himself, and the Portuguese team must show their best results. At number second, I have the French national football team. France has made it to the finals in the last two World Cups, and they could easily do it again. They have one of the best squads on paper. Many of their players become champions in their countries. For example, William Saliba with Arsenal, Jules Koundé with Barcelona, Marcus Thuram with Inter, Dayo Upamecano with Bayern, and Desiree Doué with PSG. I see France as getting to the final of the World Cup again, but in order for that to happen, Deschamps must pick the right technique, how to make sure that all players are okay with it and don't start destroying the team from within. And in first place, I have the Spanish national football team. I think Spain have everything that it takes. An easy group, a very deep squad, come on, they literally have Raya and Garcia on the bench. And a lot of good players. I think Spain could realistically win the World Cup. The only thing I don't like is that some people are overhyping this team. Some people are going as far as to say that Spain could repeat their success in the 2008, 2010 and 2012 when they won 2 Euros and the World Cup in a row. I personally don't think that hype is benefiting them because usually when a team is under so much pressure, they don't do good. But I still think that if they are in the right mood and if De La Fuente knows how to utilize the team's potential, they could win the World Cup. Some people are questioning De La Fuente's decision not to take any single Real Madrid player. Yes, this club hasn't had the best of seasons according to their standards, but some players like Dean Huijsen had a remarkable performance. So many people are still questioning why De La Fuente didn't take any Madrid players, but others are rallying behind him, saying that he has the right to choose whatever squad he wants after having won the Euros with Spain. Okay, so there you have it, guys, my ranking of all the 48 teams. Now, you might say I'm contradicting myself because I have some teams that I predict to take fourth place in the group higher than some other teams who I predict to take third place in the group. But guys, football is football. Sometimes the team that gets fourth place actually does better than a team that gets third place in a different group. For example, my home country of Ukraine at the Euro 2021 didn't get third place with 3 points, when some other teams got third place with that result and made it out of the group stage. So when I ranked all the teams, I was talking about how much points do they have the potential to get, not will they get out of the group stage or not. That's my rankings. This is just my personal opinion and people may disagree with me. I have put up a lot of effort into making this video, and this is my first time making such a long video in English. So if you like it, please give me a thumb up. I would really appreciate it. If you dislike it, give me a thumb down, write comments, and hope you have a good day. Bye, guys.